more time on the Ultimate Sports Network. This is Real Boxing Talk, talking about real boxing. Hello, gentlemen. We are going to talk boxing, strange as it is. We're going to start with this. We ended last week's show with what's coming up and what we want to see. And we didn't really have that planned, as most of the times we don't. So I actually did a little bit of homework this week. And I said, I had an extra day to get stuff done. So let's give a quick rundown of what's going to happen in the month of September. And then we'll talk about some other things that maybe are boxing talk and maybe aren't boxing talk. Coming up on Saturday, Josh Warrington versus Mauricio Lara in a rematch that's not a title fight. And we'll get into that later as to why it's not a title fight, why the other one's a title fight, blah, 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 blah. And then on the undercard of that is the undisputed women's lightweight title with Katy Taylor and Jennifer Hahn. So John has mentioned that he doesn't miss a Katy Taylor fight. We've talked a little bit about it. Not a lot of people watch, or maybe not as many people watch women's boxing as maybe they should. We'll get into that a little bit as well. Coming up on the 10th, we mentioned this gentleman as somebody we'd like to see again, and it was so well publicized it's going to be at ESPN Plus. Oscar Valdez versus Robson Canseco. I think I've got that right, for the Valdez's WBC junior lightweight belt. Also on that card is Gabe Flores against Luis Alberto Lopez, and for the WBO flyweight title, Junto Nakatani versus Angel Acosta. Coming up on the 11th on that channel that everybody knows and loves, the Triller Fight Club, Oscar De La Hoya versus Vitor Belfort for a light heavyweight piece of paper, I guess. Maybe it's some.
It's green. It's green, Frank.
Yeah, it's a green piece of paper, exactly. And on the undercard, if you want to call it that, is the return of David Haye against Joe Fournier. Yeah, that's we'll just talk about that. On the 18th, on Showtime, Stephen Fulton versus Brandon Figueroa for the WBC WBO junior featherweight unification. That ought to be a good one. We've been talking about Figueroa for a while, and we haven't been talking about Fulton much at all. Fulton owns the WBC belt there. And then on the zone on the 25th, Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Yusik for the, and if you don't know, you don't know this, for the IBF, WBA, and WBO heavyweight title. A lot of people don't realize that Joshua holds 3 belts because we're focused on Fury Wilder, and we realize, oh, somebody else has the other belts. And then for the WBO cruiserweight belt, which, again, as we've talked about before, most of us don't know who the cruiserweights are. I'm not sure why, but they don't get a lot of pub. Lawrence Okoli versus Dylan Prasovic. So, and I know I butchered both those names, but too bad. So, as we've gone into that, let's go into this. What did we see last week? Did we see boxing last week? Did we see something else last weekend? John brought it up, so let's go, John. What did you see last week?
Well, I was watching mostly to see Daniel Dubois, who I've been following from the beginning, the big heavyweight from England. So I wanted to see him. He looked very good. Knocked out Hazan in the first round easily. Minute he landed, done. He looks like he's gotten past the Joyce defeat mentally. People calling him a chicken for going blind right before he took a knee, and he was being a chicken when he did that. Okay, fine, whatever. The internet warriors are having their day.
They've been in the ring in their life, right?
Right. Amanda Serrano defended her title. She's an excellent, about female fighter. She's 41-0. Or 41-1, I think, 30 knockouts. She was dominant. So I really wanted to see that. And then Ivan Baranchek, who is a guy from Russia who used to live in Oklahoma, who actually have gotten to know a little bit. We spoke on the Ringside Boxing Show. We spoke privately. We talk on Facebook sometimes. And he was in that Fight of the Year, if you remember. And he was the guy who got knocked out. I was very concerned. I didn't know if it was long enough for him to come back. And he fought a guy named Love who was undefeated. And I remember when the fight started, like, why would you come back after being brutally knocked out and fight a guy who's undefeated and a hometown fighter? So I was questioning his management team, and he lost, and he looked kind of sluggish in there. He got hit way too much, and he got stopped. I actually sent him a message that said, look, man, you don't really know me, but I think you should hang him up. You know, you're 28, you got a great wife. You don't want to be not talking good in 10 years.
Right.
Just my view, you know, I'll always support you, whatever you did. He said, thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate that. So hopefully that's it for Ivan. Yeah, hell, he's a champion. I mean, it's hard to give it up, but sometimes you got to think about the bigger picture. And
now,
first of all, the most ridiculous part about it was this fight we're going to talk about was the headline fight. You've got an internet, what did they call him? Content creator. Who's 3-0, knocking out a basketball player and a couple other guys, against a former MMA champion who had lost his last few MMA fights. He's almost 40, who's never had a pro fight. So that's the headline fight.
The headline on pay-per-view. This is
exactly
right.
And I'm telling friends, I'm like, see, this is why this is always going to be hard for old timers like me, because it's this diverse argument. It's now and then. In my day, and you guys know this, the headline fight was the fight between the best fighters who earned the headline main event. They didn't get it just because they made themselves famous. They got it mostly because of their ability and their talent, right? It's redundant. Jake Paul is a marketing guru, whatever you want to call him, for 24 years old. He knows how to keep his name in. No, he's doing it right now. He's playing games. Well, I'm retired. He knows how to keep his name. So, okay, here comes the fight. Was it a good fight? No. You had Barry Tompkins on. I was a little disappointed, I'll tell you, Frank. Barry said it was a good fight. It was not a good fight. It was boring. There was barely any punches thrown. Jake Paul got wobbled and hurt in the fourth round. I wish Tyrone had followed up.
Right.
That would have been the end of it, see? That's what I want. I want someone to beat his ass so we're done with this. Tyrone, I was literally doing this. I'll admit it. This does not look good for me, but I was doing it like, throw some punches. Man, you throw punches, you hurt him. He's worried. You could see it in Jake Paul's face. It's like, holy Toledo, this guy can punch. No, he waits and waits, and maybe because he's 39, he's afraid he's going to get tired, right? And Jake Paul gets the decision. Not really a problem with the decision. I mean, I thought he won the earlier rounds just because he did more.
Right.
So, okay, that's one part. And then the other side is the whole arena is sold out. That's what makes this kind of thing, to me, insane. You sell that out, and then we have these fights we're talking about, Maloney and Franco. Those don't get sold out.
Right, right.
So it's no longer about skill and talent. It's about marketing. If you're like a Muhammad Ali and you could market and fight, I got no problem with that.
Yeah.
You don't earn the headline fight on your third fight against a guy debuting. I mean, it was so ridiculous, I couldn't even write about it. I just thought I still might write something about it and say why old timers like me hate Jake Paul, something like that. But it just, I just, the whole time I was just sitting there shaking my head going, so this is what it's come from. And then Oscar De La Hoya, you mentioned him, he's embracing it. Then he said, but I get it. Back in the day, it's not the day anymore. It's now. And he actually, for a guy who I think says some of the most idiotic things ever, I think he's right. It really is a now phenomenon. The way now is with social media and all that. I've gone on too long about this, but it was a fiasco as far as I was concerned. He comes out, Jake Paul, all the music, and I'm like, You haven't even done anything, my man. You're 3-0. You got no titles. What is all this pomp and circumstance? So you can see, I was just like, oh my.
Well, Charles, it kind of what John is alluding to. Back in the day, when you had like On the Waterfront, I could have been a contender. I could have had class.
That's a great fun, great movie.
But it's like you had to jump through hoops to be out there. Whether you won, you beat the guy before you, the guy that Cinderella Man.
James Brown.
I gotta be Corn Griffin. You gotta go through Corn Griffin before you get to that guy.
You gotta go with another guy.
Yeah, you gotta go through that guy before you get there. And no matter if anyone knows who you are or not, you went through 4 guys, and now you are the guy. You're the contender that gets to fight for the title. Or the mob pays for it, and you took a dive 6 times, but you still had to go through it. This is just out of the blue. And it kind of reminds me of, remember when WWF, before it became WWE, when WWF just went crazy? We had Big South Wrestling, and we had, AEW or whatever. And then suddenly, in a couple of years, WWF is all over the place. And they're playing, Madison Square Garden is sold out, and WrestleMania and all this stuff. And you're thinking, what in the hell happened here? That's what I see here. I don't know if that correlation is accurate, but you're like, it went from, and Charles, you go from, from Gorgeous George and the Sheik and guys that actually did stuff and honed their craft, to guys out there with who's Coco Beware, but his signature is he's got a bird. What?
Exactly. Yep.
That's why you're out there, because you got a bird.
That's it.
That was the selling point. Signature moves? No. Did you meet anybody? No. He had a bird. That's what they built him on. So, is this a little bit different, Charles? Is this the norm now, where it's, can you be out there and sell the fight, whether it's a fight worth selling or not?
I've been thinking about this before I spoke, and I try to do that more often these days as I get older. But instead of just going off the cuff. So I'll say this: I'm not sure if it's the norm. I think it's the norm for the way it's being presented, right? And what I mean by that is, you can sell a fight without it being worthwhile, or what the old heads, as John would say, the seasoned vets of boxing fans, what they used to think boxing was. Boxing to me is still boxing, right? See, right. The biggest issue I have with this right now is, and I said it before, I don't consider this boxing in the way that we see it, old school, right? I consider it, and I'm not mad at Jake Paul. Jake Paul, 24 years old, the new version of the way that things happen now. I'll say this: I think that this new generation is excited, and that's what they like. Let them roll with it, right? Good with that. 24 years old, you can sell out an arena. That's what people want to see. Good with that. But I think there should be a stipulation, and I think this will help some of the seasoned boxing fans like John and myself kind of deal with this when you see these type things. I think it should be a certain category. I call it entertainment. It should be called entertainment. And in fact, if you want to take it even further to say that's not fair to entertainment, let's get specific. Because I try to think about stuff so you can have something that fits for everybody. So instead of just entertainment, let's call this celebrity boxing. Okay? So therefore, when you say, hey, we got a celebrity boxing match, if you want to fight a horse, a dog, a cat, a pigeon, whatever you want to do, and you haven't fought in 99 years and you still think you can do that, then you get in this. The Jake Pauls of the world is brand new. Okay, great. And I'm just saying this. I did watch it because I was hoping, like John, that we finally would see somebody test the great Jake Paul. And I'll say this: I think Woodley showed you that he still was a professional, and that no matter what, granted, I may not be a boxer, but damn it, I'm an athlete. If you come in with that junk and joking and stuff, I will tag you, which he did tag me.
Right.
And I'll say this too, that what I find ironic is that Woodley in Jake Paul's fourth fight exposed him. He exposed him.
Yeah.
He did, because he said, you're a boxer. We went from one extreme to the next. And I'm not mad at you. You do what you do. You sell what you sell, and you follow the way that you do. Jake Paul was like, I'm going to take over the world. I want to fight everybody. I'm going to be dominant. I'm going to show y'all how it was done. You know, when I keep working, the more boxing I do, the better I'm going to get. The more I'm going to improve. It's all right, cool. Then after he started taking some punches and after the fight, he regresses and starts to say, well, you know, I've only been doing this 18 months.
Right.
All these excuses.
I got 3 fights.
Yeah, I'm like, you know, all this, and then, you know, he's world class. What do you expect me to do? It's like all these excuses. It's like, you're either going to be the man or just be who you are. But He had all these excuses. Then he says, well, I don't know, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do now because, you know, I've been doing this for 18 months. You know, I haven't been home. My teeth are messed up. I need all these excuses. It's like, do you want to fight or what you want to do? Because you made the money now. You made the money. Just come out and be a man and go, look, I got my options wide open. I don't know what I want to do. But what we do know is this. What we do know, and if you watch it, for me anyway, what we do know is this. If he gets in the ring with somebody that has any boxing training or knows any thing about anything, he's in trouble. And that's why he said he did not want to fight Woodley again. Woodley was like, oh shit, now I know. Now, and I'm not playing with you. And then he started talking about, you know, it became a joke. And that was the marketer, the PT Barnum in Jake Paul came out where he was joking and I beat you. Now what? It's all this stuff. But he had to be serious with that, man, because Woodley said to him, I showed you I'm the real deal. So if you want to be a man and fight me again, then okay, come with it. But I think Jake Paul was like, and I'm not sure if he's going to retire or not, but I really think he came back off of that and was like, man, hey, it's cool. We made money, but I don't know if I can be a serious boxer. So when I saw the retirement thing, everybody thought it was a joke. I think there's some seriousness to that because he knows, man, I didn't feel good. I didn't feel comfortable in the way I was getting hit. And the one thing he does not want to do, he does not want to take off the luster of what he's created. And if he was to get knocked out and crushed, it just destroys. It basically says everything he did was a sham. I fooled you like so many other people. I'm an entertainer. I told you before, I'm not a real boxer. I fooled you. Thank you very much. Good night. I'm going to go live off of you suckers that I took advantage of. So I think he's going to tread very lightly on this next decision. Plus, too, he's like, well, I earned a break. Well, our break for him means a year. He may not see him for another year unless somebody comes up with some real cash.
And I think what you're seeing is this is it's the marketing thing. We're going to see him again. And it may be a year, it may not be. But we're going to see him against somebody who's not good.
Yeah.
Because if they're able to fill a stadium for this fight, they can fill a stadium for anybody. He can fight Danny Bonaduce if he wants to. He'll fill that up.
Right.
That's what's going to come up next. And like you said, now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I said, can we say one thing too? And I'm not mad at anybody. You live your life, you live how you want to. But I think this is another telling sign of the way that our society has moved in one way or another. I think that with this social media craze and things like that too, people, and I'm not saying people that have money don't watch this stuff because it's probably entertainment too, but I think that we are become such a society where a lot of people, we've been through a hell of a lot with the pandemic and stuff like that too, that the average person has struggled a lot trying to deal with things. And if you're a person, an average person, some people have a real strong, I think, connection with Paul, just being an average guy, right?
Right.
From Cleveland, the whole nine. And you want to see him win. Like, damn, if he can do it, maybe I can do it. All that connection sells tickets. All that connection makes you feel good because you're rooting for a regular guy, a regular Joe, as they used to say back in the day. With all that being said, that is the way that you play on people's heartstrings. It's why reality TV, in my opinion, is done so well. It's because you want to see other people suffer because you want to take away what your heartache is. And if nothing else, Jake Paul provides entertainment. He and his brother, they have done that. They made a lot of money. They talk a lot of smack, which they're very good at. And they make other people go, well, he's just a regular guy. Look at him coming in, eating Raising Cane's at the thing. I mean, that's all that's the stage, bro. Eating regular. What boxer you know goes to the weigh-in and eat Raising Cane's? I mean, Raising Cane's, oh my God, you see? He's eating a full thing. That's, dude, they selling this. And I'm not mad. It is brilliant. It is brilliant marketing. But when it comes to real boxing, he's a celebrity boxer. So with that being said, I think it'll always be a room for it. But I think too, it's time for the seasoned people and particularly the media. The Showtime, I hope one day y'all connect with us, but y'all know that shit wasn't right. And I said that. This had nothing to do with what the show said. Then you know that wasn't right. That was your headliner, but you made money. Everybody made money. I understand that. But can we, along with your celebrity boxing and whatever you're doing right there, can we get some real boxing? Because real boxing fans will pay a pay-per-view amount to see some real good boxing. So you want to do that too? Please, along with your celebrity boxing and your entertainment, can we get some real boxing? PBC, really? Come on, man. Can we get some real boxing? Right? I mean, I'm just saying that's all we want, bro. We know y'all have it in you. We just want that. Share with us what you have. Keep running your celebrity boxing, De La Hoya versus Nat King Cole, coming from the dead, whatever you want to do. I ain't mad at you. Rock on with it, baby.
King Cole?
Old King Cole.
Dead since 1965.
I said from the dead. Y'all remember that. I said from the dead.
Old King Cole. That's who.
Those that are listening heard me. I said from the dead. I got you. I got
the
you.
dead. Okay.
I'm here. Okay.
All right.
Look,
so
but anyway, but the whole point is, it was crazy. It was interesting. I watched it. Yes, I did. But for the last time, to clarify, this is a lesson now. Remember, let's focus on entertainment. And then we have over here real boxing. Now, see, John is going to be okay now because he realizes it's nothing to do with his boxing. He can focus on entertainment, real boxing. Thank you.
Can I say one thing real quick, Frank? See, now, I'd have been okay with it if he wasn't the headliner. Because, see, they loaded the card with the real boxers. Right. So it's just what you're saying, Charles. For fans like me, they gave us some, I mean, they weren't great fights, but they were good fights. And this guy, Love, is a rising star, obviously. And Amanda Serrano is really good. And Dubois is moving up. So that was for us. And the undercard was good, too. So it was just, that was what was sitting in my craw, wherever your craw is there. I don't know. If that had been just in the middle of the fight, he was the main guy in a way when he wasn't the main guy. So everything you made perfect sense. Everything you said made perfect sense, Charles. It is a nowadays phenomenon, and I don't hate Jake Paul. I agree with you. He's a brilliant marketer. But you might be onto something because I don't think he thought Woodley was going to be this hard. This fight was going to be this. He really got pushed. And he hung in and whatever. And if he was fighting a guy who could really fight, and there was this debut, Woodley's. Okay, MMA, not the same thing as boxing. He was fighting a guy who was maybe 9-12 or something. He'd have got knocked out. Yeah. So he might be saying to himself, you're right. He might be saying, look, I made $2 million for this fight. $2 million. Do I really need this?
And that's just off of the fight. Let's not forget what he got in endorsements and all that.
Very true.
He probably threw some money in. All right, so let's just say this episode of the McNeil Lair Hour has been brought to you by. It's funny because as much as we rail about it, as much as we call it real boxing talk, we just spent half an hour talking about it. That's what they want. That's what they want.
That's what they want.
So
we gave it to you. We gave it to you, and we gave it to you.
I feel like Andy Rooney now. Hey, you get off my lawn. Yeah. Okay, now, Charles, you mentioned give me real boxing. Okay, now let's look at something that, my voice just went up an octave, that seemed kind of weird initially. Now, unfortunately, I lost the quote that I just had, but Warrington and Lara, and I guess we should call it Lara versus Warrington, because that's what it is. Lara is the guy that won the fight and won it very convincingly against Josh Warrington. Now, let's go back to what happened leading up to this, because Warrington was the IBF champion. And he gave up the belt because they wouldn't sanction him fighting either Gary Russell or Chan, if I'm not mistaken, right? So for WBA or the WBC belt. So the IBF said, you're going to fight who we determined you're going to fight.
Kid Galahad. And he said, no, I want to fight these guys. And then how did the Lara fight come to be from that, John? Well, they pretty much insisted to Warrington, look, he already fought Galahad. He won. Very ugly fight. They wanted a rematch because it was controversial. And he said, I don't want to fight this guy again. He's an ugly fighter. I want to fight him. And they said, well, you're going to fight him. And Warrington said, well, fine, I'll give up the title then. So that's why when he fought Lara, it was a non-title fight because he wasn't the champion anymore. It was as simple as that. And Galahad won a title a few months ago,
right.
A few weeks ago, I think. And so he's got that. But yeah, I just wrote an article about it, and it's do or die time for Josh Warrington. I mean, he pretty much said in a quote, look, if I can't beat this guy, then I got no business even fighting. Now, there he goes again, putting down Lara. I mean, Lara might just have his number. You never know about sports. Some guys just have your number. But this is it for him. He's got to win. I think he probably will by decision, maybe, if he fights smart. But when boxers get in this thing nowadays, you can't lose again, you know. And he's only lost once.
Right.
That's what's amazing. He's lost one fight, but the way he lost, he got his jaw fractured. He separated his shoulder when he went down. I mean, you're talking about getting a brutal beating, and it was brutal if you guys watched it. And to get back in there against that guy 7 months later is gutsy. But that's Warrington. He's all about guts and determination, not punching power and all that. So, yeah, he's got to win if he wants the bigger fights. And then we're going to see how he looks. Previously, I mentioned Ivan Branchek, who got knocked out by Zabeta. He didn't look like the same guy to me. See, and you just don't know. Here he's doing the same thing I said, where I was like, what are they thinking? You know, Barichek's team, with putting him in with an undefeated guy. Here you're fighting the same guy that just knocked you
beat
out.
The snot out of you, right?
So it's gutsy, but that's boxing. See, now this is the real boxing talk you like so much, Frank Charles. That this is it, because he's putting it on the line. And isn't it amazing? I mean, he's 30 years old. He worked his way up from nothing. The guy's been underrated his whole life. He is a Rocky you're talking about Jake Paul being able to people relate to him kind of in a Rocky-esque way, regular guy trying to work his way. Well, you know, not really. But Warrington is that regular guy. He is the guy from Leeds. He is the guy that everyone underrated. He is the guy nobody thought would ever be champion. He's the guy who beat Carl Frampton. I mean, before Frampton was even past it, really. So he earned all this. He earned it to be the headliner. So this is a big fight. And again, it's another one that's flying right under the radar, and that's disappointing, but that's the way it is.
Well, Charles, and before I go into my John Houseman invitation there, the idea of, did he overlook Lara the first time? Because, and the quote that I was looking for was, he said, I didn't get this fight into that fight. I am going to take care of business against Mauricio Lara, and then I'm going to get the fight that I want. That is basically, I'm paraphrasing, that's what he said leading up to that fight. Did he overlook Lara, even though he said he wasn't going to? Or was it that Lara was just that much better or better on that day?
I'm not sure if he overlooked him. I'm not sure if he knew how good Lara was. And that's how I look at it. Yeah, I think that's how that is. And Warrington comes in, you're the guy, you're thinking, okay, I'm moving forward. I was a champion. The only reason why I'm not champion is because, you know, I gave up the belt. So therefore I'm better than this guy. But I think that he came in and he said, hey, I'm confident. This guy can't beat me. And what he found out was something totally different. And it happens. You know, you get surprised. You know, that's boxing. You have to come in with the right mindset. So I would say, I don't think he overlooked him, in my opinion. I think that he actually he ran into a buzzsaw and said, oh, shit, I didn't know he was that good.
Yeah.
So now the question is, now that you have, as we call in football, you have some tape and some film on you, right? You got a chance to review now and go back in, even though it's real quick after the first fight. But when I first heard about the rematch, I said, you guys, even also, I mentioned this, that I was really scared, and I'm still scared for Warrington. I mean, he's a top-notch guy, like John said. He came out of nowhere and, really worked his way up. But the beating he took, it just makes you wonder. And I think it is a make or break moment. And there's nothing that says he's not a good dude. It's just the question is, can you come back from such a savage beating and go, okay, now I know what I need to do to get back in there and make this happen as far as the victory is concerned. So the question is, as John said, is he's going to have to come in and kind of change the way his mindset, be a little bit more meticulous, take his time, and really do the things that he does well if he wants to win the fight. You can't go off of straight revenge and rage and just being angry because he whooped your butt the first time and you feeling the pressure of having to be successful. You got to come in and you got to be your best. And that takes a very special individual. I mean, a lot of great athletes are very talented, but they can't get the mindset right to come in and deliver. And it's hard to do because in the back of your mind, you said, man, this dude, 7 months ago, whatever it was, just whooped my behind. And now I know he's not going to be backing up. He's coming in the same way, a la the Maloney, fight before.
Well, that's what I was going to say, right.
Very similar. But so I just think Warrington is like, we'll see where his mindset is. But I don't think you overlooked him. I think it's going to be a hell of a fight. But I think he has to be cognizant to go, hey, man, I'm going to give him my best, but I'm going to have to be even killed. Because I think that's how, if he's going to win this fight, that's how he's going to win it. You got to use some brain power and this corner's going to have to tell him, we have to keep our mindset and stay focused. Not coming in here with, oh, man, I got to get this guy. And if I lose, my life has changed. And you just got to give it your best effort. And if it wins, if it's good enough, it is. But at least you gave your best effort.
Well, and you hit on it, and I was going to say that when Franco comes back and beats Maloney, and I don't know that Maloney savagely destroyed him as bad as Lara destroyed Warrington, but we were saying after that fight, Maloney kicked Franco's behind. Stoppage, whatever you want to call it, however you want to put it, Maloney took care of business in that second fight. Now, Franco had the knowledge of knowing that he won the first fight, so that's maybe had something to do with it. But if you go off of that, how do you come back from that? Okay, and even though I think he was in denial, Franco was in denial after the fight, said, well, he didn't beat me that bad. No, that dude whipped your butt. But again, he had the knowledge of the first fight. So when you're in that situation, and we've seen it with guys time and time again, what is the turning point, you think, John, when Warrington says, uh-oh, or I'm good? Is it the first punch? Is it the first clinch? Is it the first barrage that he takes? He's like, I weathered that, I'm all right? Or is it like, oh, man, here it comes again, and he starts covering up and like, I just want to get out of here?
Real quick, I think Warrington admitted he was arrogant going into the first fight. Okay. So maybe that wasn't overlooking, but he was a 33-1 favorite going into the first fight. So somebody made a killing if they put money on Lara. I think it's all Charles again. God, he's brilliant over there. I'm bragging about winning $50. Charles wins 50,000. I mean, jeez. But Warrington, yeah, he has to fight. See, the thing about Warrington is he reminded me of a little gnat when I first watched him fight because he couldn't punch very hard, but he was very busy. Right. He constantly kept guys backing up because he was so busy. His fight before the Lara fight, he stopped the guy in 2 rounds, and it was like, wow, is he starting to think he's a knockout artist? He's got 7 knockouts in 30 fights, okay? So in the Lara fight, he actually seemed like he wobbled him in the first round, if you remember. And I think he was thinking, this is easy. I knocked this guy out, just like my last fight. And then Lara started to fight back and hurt him. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be, Frank, I think it's going to be Lara lands one of those left hooks. Hopefully he's going to have so can't hit him with that left hook very much, but it's his chin. That's the other thing we don't know. Sometimes, like Ivan Baranchek again, sorry, Ivan, your chin just has a meltdown, as I call it. Suddenly your chin is not that resilient anymore. Whatever has happened, all this to here, you just, it's not there. So the way he was knocked out, when he gets hit, this is the thing I'm thinking. It's like when football players, or when you play sports, football or whatever, and you say the first time I get hit, I'm okay. You know, the butterflies are gone and everything, maybe the doubts. He gets hit with a solid punch and nothing happens. If nothing happens, I think he's good then. And then he sticks to his game plan, which is going to be boxing, in and out, grabbing him, moving. Not like David Haye did in the second, not like Joshua did in the second fight against Ruiz, but more defensive minded, more smart, like Charles was saying, a little more clever, that word. Don't sit in the pocket and rumble with this guy. You don't want to rumble with this guy. This guy can punch. You want to jab him, throw some punches, get out, move. You know, you're not fighting his fight. You fight your fight. So answering your question, Frank, I think pretty early, if he hits him with a punch and Warrington wobbles, if he hits him and nothing happens and Warrington grabs him and then backs off, starts jabbing and staying busy like he normally does, because he throws punches like crazy in rounds. Not trying to knock him out, just trying to beat him and stick to that mindset. I think he can win a decision. But if he loses it and starts trying to do like Gotti would do with Ward, I got a plan, but he just nailed me. Now I got to nail him back. You know, if he sticks to his game plan, which I think he can. I think he's a very disciplined, determined guy. I mean, it only takes you so far, but still, he should be able to win a decision over Lara. But man, Lara is a dangerous dude, and now he's saying that Warrington disrespected his father. I searched up and down the internet trying to find where he said anything about Lara's dad, and he didn't say anything about it. He kind of disrespected Lara. He said, "Look, if I fought this guy 100 times, I'd beat him 99 times." That's what he said. So, I mean, I always think, do you really want to give a guy who just knocked you brutally out even more determination? So I don't know about that, but if he fights his fight, I'm done here. He should win. If he starts falling back into that, I'm going to knock this guy out for what he did to me, he get knocked out again. I think he gets stopped.
Charles, is it kind of like and I'm going to mention a couple of fighters here that we've talked about before, and kind of choose one or the other. And we're talking about Warrington being a busy fighter without, thunder in his hands. Is it more of a Paulie Malignaggi that I'm just going to go in here, I'm going to do what I have to do, and I'm going to get put in it, and then hope that I don't get hit? Is that what he became? Or is it more like a Juan Diaz who goes in, stays busy, gets the job done, but there's a level only so far he can take that amount of talent? And we both love Juan Diaz, but there was only so far he could go because he didn't really have that, I'm going to get you off of me, and, whatever I'm doing is enough to win rounds, but push comes to shove, I can't scare you into getting off of me, and I can't scare you into going away.
If I had to choose one, I probably would say Paulie Malignaggi, because of the factor that we know that Juan Diaz, even though he wasn't the strongest puncher, he still had punch and knockout power. And I know that's, and I know that we see what Warrington has done it before. He's done it 7 times. So there's always that possibility. But I think that Diaz, I think it was just really the competition. I mean, he hit, as you said, he hit a level of the competition was just a little bit better. But I think that Warrington is probably on the other side of Malignaggi. But that's why he has to be the smarter fighter. I mean, it's like somebody faster than you and you're running a race, right? You got to understand that if you're faster than me in a 100-yard dash, 100 meters now, then I got to pick my spots where I got to make sure that I jump on you and then I stay in front, right? I know at some point you're coming for me. And I think that's where the strategy goes with this fight now. So you got to say, it's almost like cutting it up in the pieces of a pie, right? How can I win the first 3 rounds? How can I win the first 2 rounds? Then we'll take it step by step after that. The key is we can't let anything get away from us or lose us, because we know what we experienced before. This person has the ability to destroy us and decimate us and put us in a place we don't want to be. So we got to take it. It's almost like a piece at a time and do it like that. And that's why I said more Malignaggi, because of that factor that Malignaggi really, when he fought anybody of significance, let's keep this 100, it wasn't happening. It just wasn't. And good dude, and he beat the hell out of me, and I'm good with tech, and I'm not a boxer. But when it came to him really being having these opportunities, it was just like he could never really rise to the occasion. And it wasn't because he didn't want to. It was more or less about the talent. And I think sometimes you got to be honest about that. He always wanted to be his night, but oftentimes it wasn't. So, but Warrington, I think, with his cleverness and his ability to box and stay in the pocket and being busy, he just has to be that guy, but also be smart about it and find ways to win rounds.
Okay, and also on that card, John, is the Katy Taylor fight. And I guess I should say that the Katy Taylor versus somebody fight, but let's be honest, we're talking about the Katy Taylor fight. So when we look at women's boxing, female boxing, whatever you want to categorize it as, should we stop doing it that way? It's just another class of fighting. Or is it, this is something completely different? Because we look at Clarissa Shields and other people like, this is what they do. Should we stop saying it's this? I mean, obviously you're not going to put them in with men, but it's still boxing as opposed to the other things we were talking about earlier. Or is it still a niche kind of, let's take a look at this because this is interesting.
You know, I think it would help a lot if, and people disagree about this all the time, but I think they ought to, you know, every round is 2 minutes for the ladies. I think they ought to make it 3. You know, throw the 2-minute rounds out. I think that would separate some things. They talk about there's nobody gets any knockouts. Well, that's not totally true, but there are less knockouts in that. And we're talking about a brutal sport here. So another additional minute could definitely make a difference. Katy is the antithesis or opposite of Christy Martin was when, you know, how popular Christy was. Christy was power. Christy was a slugger. Katy is a very disciplined boxer puncher, not really a puncher, who to me is just poetry in motion. I love to watch her fight. She's never in a boring fight, even when she's dominating, because she will do things. She can entertain every now and then. She'll do little Lomachenko things. They'll drop her hands. You know, so she's a fighter. I mean, she's got charisma. And plus, here's that back a little bit. She can fight, unlike some people who have charisma, gold medalists, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I love to watch her fight. Nowadays, though, Frank, answering, yeah, it is kind of the way it is because there's just not a lot of fighters, you know. Katy was supposed to fight Amanda Serrano, who was talking about. She weighs 126. Katy weighs 135. So you could think they would meet somewhere, but they can't agree on money right now. But Katy's got a rematch possibility. She's got Tess Harper in her future, who idolized her. So the way that Eddie Hearn is handling her career is like Eddie can do. I mean, hell, let's be honest. Eddie can be a brilliant guy a lot as a manager. He's handling her, keeping her mostly in England. He has her come to the States every now and then. She's wildly popular. She even trains in Connecticut. So and she's idolized by millions in Ireland. So the whole Katy Taylor thing has been fun, and she's 34 now. And my girlfriend says, well, how long has she got? I go, you know, and I thought I started to see something a little different in her last fight, you know, 250 amateur fights. I don't know how long you can keep going before you start slowing down and the younger ones start catching you. I don't think it's going to happen this weekend, but, you know, I'm enjoying her as long as we have her. And again, a guy I know, a good friend of mine who's not a big fan of female boxing says, I never miss her because she's always in exciting fights. So I'm jinxing her here, but she's just a really good fighter.
Well, Charles, and not to get into the whole pantheon of sports here, but when we talk women's golf, well, they play from a different team. We talk women's tennis. Well, they only play 2 sets or 2 out of 3 instead of 3 out of 5. As John's saying, we got 2-minute rounds to the 3-minute rounds. Is that the deciding factor here? I mean, I would think here in the United States, the women's soccer team is more popular than the men's soccer team. And if I'm not mistaken, the rules are basically the same. Go out there, stand and watch 3 people kick the ball for 90 minutes, and then hopefully you get a penalty kick or a goal or a corner kick and win the game. See how much I love soccer. But in WNBA, we play on the same court, right? Ball's a little smaller. Okay. We use the same size ball, we use the same size, there are modifications made. And then we say, well, we want equal pay and equal this. And I don't want to get into all that. But the idea being, if you want to do the equal thing, don't you have to get paid the equal way? Don't you have to do the equal thing?
Wow, that's pretty deep, man. That's pretty deep.
Like I said, PBS show today.
My mind says one thing, my heart says another.
Right, me too.
I think that from the standpoint, of course, she's like, well, if they want to be like the men, they want to get paid like the men, they should be like the men. I don't agree with that. And I understand. I'm not mad. I know John mentioned about the 3 rounds. I'm sorry, instead of 2 or 3 minute rounds. So yeah, but I don't have a problem with that. But sometimes it's okay to have, I wouldn't call it a niche or something, a special category, right? I think when you call it women's boxing, instead of throwing it within all the other stuff, now you got the entertainment stuff coming in. If you classify it as women's boxing, it really gives you an opportunity, in my perspective, to really appreciate them for what they do and the way that they do it inside their own bubble, right? It's just what it is. I mean, you mentioned about Katy Taylor fighting this weekend. She's a phenomenon in her own right. She's special. I watched Serrano earlier. The one thing they don't talk about, I mean, I haven't heard anything about this. The young lady that Serrano fought, she was a monster, man. She should have been knocked out like 9 times. And this lady, I think they said she was a nurse or a teacher or something like that. I think she was a nurse and she was banging. And I was like, nobody's talking about that. Her face is all, and she got hit flush, but she was still banging with Serrano. She was giving her all she wanted. And the lady wouldn't refuse to quit, even though many other fighters, no matter the gender, would have got knocked the hell out.
Right.
Nobody talked about that. But I think that if you keep it as that special category of women's boxing, they really get their I think there's a better just due, right? And I say that because you look at Clarissa Shields right now. She's almost, even though she won't say it, I like her attitude. She's a gold medalist, she's an Olympic gold medalist, and she's a top-notch fighter in her own right. But when you try to lump it all together, I think she's suffering right now trying to make money, trying to get fights, because they're trying to be like all of the regular boxers to the point where she's fighting MMA, because that's where the money is.
Right.
That's something different, and people have not seen her. She's like, well, okay, I'll try that, which is really sad because she's a boxer. She should be boxing. But when you put it in there, like, I'm trying to get the same amount as the men, let's keep it special. Layla Ali, sooner or later, there's going to be somebody that's going to challenge whoever. That's why you mentioned about Serrano and Katy Taylor. I would love to see that. I just found out about Serrano by watching this lovely Jake Paul.
Good.
Yeah, she's very good. Let's make that fight. I will watch that. I mean, I want to see that. So, but when you lump it in all together, I think it loses its luster. So let's, like, even MMA. Let's keep MMA, women's MMA the way it is, because when you try to put it all together and try to compare it to things, it loses luster. Because I'm telling you right now, I'm not the biggest MMA fan, but every time Amanda Nunes, the Lioness, is on, that is much. I would watch her. Right. I would watch her more than I do much damn boxers, because the Lioness is not afraid of anybody. She beat the hell out of Cyborg. She takes on all. She can bite. I'm gonna leave this. Get off of this real quick and let John jump on it. You talk about celebrity boxing. I tell you what, I'm not one about crossing nothing over, but I would love to see Amanda Nunes fight a guy about her size and weight, and somebody that's supposed to be halfway decent in boxing. And I wish he was the size of Paul, but he's just too damn big. He like 190. But as far as fight and whatever, there's not too many people better, man. Amanda Nunes is the truth, and she doesn't care. So that's why I think, though, getting back to your point, I think it's important to keep it specialized, because that way we know what we're getting into. And then if you do have a great fight or something that you go, wow, these ladies are banging, you can appreciate it. I know I appreciate it more. But when you lump it in with a bunch of stuff, like even though it may not be a headliner, if Katy Taylor and Serrano fight, if it may not be a headliner, just not throw it in with a bunch of stuff where it's the fourth fight on the docket and we miss it. Make it special. Surround it with some other things, but make it special, because I think they're great athletes. They deserve that, and they deserve to make some coin.
Well, John, are we to the point now, or should we get to the point where we go, okay, instead of it being the second or third fight on the card, and I don't know how it shakes out monetarily, if you're not the headliner, you get whatever scale is. I'm assuming, I don't know, they come up with something, I'm sure. But would it be better served to say, we're going to have a women's boxing card, and we're going to have boom, 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 and then we're going to, like we've been talking about, build the sport. You may not get it to be pay-per-view, but at least you build the sport. Is it better served that we start saying, we need all-female cards? Or is it, nah, you've just got to fit them in where you can? Because you've got, and I would think, and I could be wrong, you've got two different types of fans that are watching all-male boxing and all-female boxing. I could be wrong about that. But are you trying to bring more people to the table? Like, hey, you like women's boxing? Come to the male fight, and then we're going to see that. Or if you don't like female boxing, come to the male fight, and guess what? We're going to show you this. You go, oh, I like that too.
It's tough because I believe, I'm not 100% sure, I believe that Clarissa Shields did fight on an all-female card. I think it was in Michigan, if I remember correctly, where she's from, and it didn't do very well. And Clarissa is kind of very polarizing because she's, again, you make a decision as a fighter what you are, and some people can get away. She said some things that a lot of people found offensive. So that annoyed people. Sometimes that helps.
Right.
It didn't help with her. Where Katy is more, she doesn't say barely anything that's insulting to anyone. She just plays it safe that way. Her marketing is, I'm cautious. I let my fists kind of talk for me. Clarissa was kind of conceited and it rubbed people the wrong way. She's talking about she could beat operated men and I mean, it just rubbed people the wrong way. So she's tried. She might have been trying to do the Muhammad Ali thing where I want people to come and see me because they want to see me lose.
Yeah.
And that didn't work out because Muhammad had so much charisma, as we know, we've talked about it a million times, and that's important. It's a fine line to walk. She had that problem in a weigh-in, somebody got, an older man got slugged and almost died. That was all bad publicity. So she's been trying, and now, as Charles said, we've got the MMA. So the only way to find out, Charles or Frank, would be like Katy Taylor and Amanda Serrano. That is a main event fight.
Right.
That is that. Amanda Serrano's title fight should have been the main event last Sunday, not Jake Paul and Woodley. Should have been. I mean, if you're thinking along what is supposed to be the way something is, Jake Paul can fight on the card. That's fine, but not, as we've said, eating that up. They've tried it. It hasn't really worked, and that's why they tried it like this weekend. You got Katy on the card with Warrington and Lara. It's the second main, so it's like the co-main. Not the main, but it's the co-main. Could it be the main? Yes. The only way you would find out again, Frank, since the Clarissa Shields thing didn't work, is try a all-female card. You know what? They did do another one. Eddie Hearn did do an all-female card a few months ago in England at his, complex at wherever that huge place is where they didn't do very well again. So I think they've determined that it's ratings. We know that, money, ratings, all that. And it's better to have them, the female fighters, with the men fighters, and mix it up that way. But I mean, like for example, real fast, I'll say like Charles, I'll get off this. That was Shannon Courtney and that Aussie that I read about. That fight, they only had like 15 fights. They were rumbling for 10 rounds. Remember the one guy got all swollen up? She couldn't even see. She wasn't talking about quitting. Like you're talking about the lady that fought Serrano. I saw her. Her face was all beat up. She's bleeding all over the place. She's not saying anything about quitting and not anything against anyone who does. I'm just saying that these women are fighters, so they do deserve the respect. I just think there's always going to be some people that are always going to be resistant because it's women. And I mean, I know some guys that say, no way, I will not watch any women fighting each other. That's not, women shouldn't be fighting. You got that chauvinistic kind of thinking there. So it's always going to hold it back. I think that the best time was when Christy Martin and Lala Lee were fighting, and they ended up fighting each other. And Lala Lee fought Jacqueline Frazier. Yeah. I mean, I was into that because it's Ali Frazier again. Yeah. And I liked that Lala Lee. I liked watching her fight. She had talent, you know. I'm glad she didn't come back against Clarissa Shields. She was talking about it at 46 years old, coming back against Clarissa Shields. I'm glad she didn't do that. But so I think, unfortunately, no matter what, and I mean, they've done a lot. We have a person out here in California, Blanca Gutierrez, whose daddy was a pro fighter, and she's done so much. She's got a card called The Beautiful Brawlers, where it's always women fights, and they're good fights. I've gone. It's just going to be more of a niche, like you said, but boxing is kind of a niche in itself. This is even a smaller niche. Unfortunately, I hate to say this. Melissa McMorrow, I wrote about her lots of times. She won titles. She's an architect. Talking about the nurse. So it's just, unfortunately, it's just the way it is. But I don't see it changing in the near future.
Well, it's one of those things where we keep looking at how to grow the sport, how to get it to be where it is not a niche, where it is something where people say, this is must-see TV. And I think, to tell you the truth, I think as we spoke about back in January and even back in last March, about this time last year, kind of think about it, what some of the stuff that we were talking about, they have taken under advisement. Now, I'm not saying they went directly to our site and went, hey, that's what these guys said, but some of the things that we really wanted them to do, they've done. I mean, looking again at, we just ran down at the beginning of the show, the fights coming up in September. I don't know if we'd have these kind of fights in September in the years past. You know, yeah, a little coin, because, you know, we've got things going on. So I think it's a good thing. They're making changes, they're making adjustments, and right now I think that the sport is better off than when 2 or 3 years ago I said boxing was dead. Now, do yourself a favor, forget the way the show looks, but go back to the 2019 shows and take a look at what was happening then and how we were commenting on it then, and the attitude that we have now. He could have done that if he wanted to. He hit the right button. You couldn't hit that button on purpose if you wanted to. But going back from where we were 2 years ago to where we are now, and I would say we are more enthusiastic about where things are, at least I am, more positive about the way things are, and the future looks, I think, brighter than it did
more handsome
in 2019. Oh, you know, I can only get so handsome, you know, so. Anyhow, all right, so this has been, yeah, me being his, welcome to Fantasy Island.
At least Charles is more handsome now. I don't know about you and me, Frank.
He couldn't get more handsome. He couldn't get more handsome. That's not possible.
His movie star looks down there.
He's hanging out with Ricardo Montalban.
Oh,
yes.
Corinthian leather seats.
That's right.
That's what my face is starting to look like. Welcome to Fantasy Island.
Put a little more makeup on.
A little bit more. You need to give a little more tan is what you need.
Yeah.
Anyhow, this will all be edited out at the end, so thank you very much for joining Real Boxing Talk. And it's been fun and enjoyable and everything like it always is. And we'll be back next week. We'll talk some more stuff. I'm interested to see how Warrington Lara plays out, or Lara Warrington, I should say, because as you both said, Warrington has to do a lot in order to get himself into this fight, and Lara's running off the fumes of, hey, I got the job done. So, you know, we'll see where that plays. And then again, I'm looking forward to talking about the I guess the coming out party as a favorite of Oscar Valdez coming up next week or week after next, because I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't give him any much of a chance in the push-up. I didn't, because that's not the guy I knew of. So I didn't have anything, as you said, do we have tape to look at? We probably did, but I didn't go back and look at it. And now that I've seen what that guy is, that may be one of the guys we have to be really paying attention to in the upcoming months, years. So it'd be interesting to see how he capitalizes on that. And then as we go along, they're just, I think Fulton Figueroa is going to be a nice fight. We've talked a lot about Figueroa, but now he's had a chance to really make some hay here. No offense to, or no pun for the David Hay fight coming up also. And then Yusik and Joshua. So
That's an interesting one.
Got a lot to look at for this month. So again, thank you, folks. Long hand. Sorry about that. We will talk to you later, and peace.